Cycling through pit stops, 16, Greg Biffle having a bit of an issue, cost him about 3 or 4 extra seconds on. But as you said, Andy, precision, you got to get it full of fuel. You can't afford to have to come in early or come back down pit road.
Yeah, but you should be able to get it full of fuel when you change 4 tires here. And we heard Jamie talking about knocking the stem out of the left rear tire. And I don't know why that is about this racetrack, but I've had that same thing happen to me here before, where you drop the jack and the tire starts spinning and the air wrench will pop that stem and then knock it right off of there.
Bobby Labonte, the guy that you picked as a sleeper to win it today, on and off pit road.
He's been sleeping a little too much for me so far. He needs to get going a little bit better.
Well, here's a guy, DJ, that's wide awake, Mark Martin, and he, after cycling through, he is back up front. And they said the car was a little too free. They wanted to make an air pressure change. They have done it. I don't know how much better he wants that car to be.
Well, he's looking for perfection now because he's got the rest of the field whipped right at this moment. But just a great race car. Mark's doing a terrific job. You know, it's very impressive there as we went through all of these pit stops. It's very easy to get excited and either speed coming in or speed going out. So these guys all did a terrific job. Mike, you have more?
Well, yeah, DJ, you mentioned and you described Mark as a perfectionist. Well, that's what his crew chief, Tony Gibson, likes most about working with him, and he relies on that. Because they didn't have much race trim practice this week, he sat down with Mark, and both of them went over a setup for this racetrack. And, of course, Mark made a lot of suggestions. Tony was real happy because he says he wasn't real used to that with his last driver, but he feels like they made the right decisions. They started this race out a little bit snug because they did get a lot loose back in June, and they felt like that was the right direction to go in, and it seems to be working so far.
56 of 200 laps complete. The 8 car is number 1, Mark Martin. And how about those impressive numbers? Leads all time in terms of races led. 30 top 10 finishes, folks. A fourth of the races he has run here, he has finished either second or third. He's finished second 6 times.
ESPN's coverage of the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series continues next Sunday, 1 o'clock Eastern Time at Watkins Glen, the famed road course in upstate New York, where the race to the chase continues. We'll be down to 5 races to go before the championship cutoff. Tony Stewart's been kind of Mr. Road Course King lately. Of course, Jeff Gordon, the all-time road course race winner in NASCAR. 90 laps around the twisting course next Sunday. NASCAR Sprint Cup Series racing from Watkins Glen. Coverage starting at 1 o'clock Eastern Time on ESPN. And today we look down on the beautiful Pocono Raceway in the Pennsylvania mountains. Our aerial coverage brought to you by DirecTV, now broadcasting over 90 national HD channels. Well, Mark Martin's been the man so far today. He started second, took the lead on lap 1, and has led most of the way, 45 of the 59 laps that have been run to this point. And Mark right now up by 5.5 seconds on second place, David Gilliland. Now, our ESPN pit studio happens to overlook the top of Mark Martin's pit. While we were watching his pit stop a minute ago, Rusty, you were noticing some clouds.
Man, I tell you what, I looked out the window, I said, holy smokes, these guys look like they're in Martinsville. Look at all this brake dust just pouring off these brakes. And folks, one thing you got to remember, these cars aren't shifting anymore like they used to a long time ago. These cars don't handle real good, so they're using a lot more brake. Get down into turn 1 mostly. And I got a feeling by the end of the day, the brake's going to be pretty low on a lot of these cars because, Andy, these guys are really using more brake than they've ever used with this new car.
Well, they are, Rusty. And I talked to some of the brake guys. There goes Casey Kane around Jeff Gordon. Talking to some of the brake guys in the garage area, you know, they just keep developing the brake package for this race car because it's so much heavier and it is hard to get woed down. They've got brake pads that are like 1 1/8 inches thick just for that high pad where we saw. That's why you see all that dust, and they're able to do that all day long.
How difficult is it, Andy, as a tire changer all those years? I know you and Tim Brewer both changed tires, but how difficult is it when you get a face full of brake dust, you're trying to see what's happening on that pit stop?
I'll tell you how hard it is. That's why I quit changing tires. I used to change front tires, and I used to hate that part of it because it's that first blast of that air wrench just blows that dust up in your face. And, man, I don't like that stuff.
Yeah, as they continue to develop and make these brake packages better, these guys just take it to another level and abuse the brakes even more. So they'd be better off not telling the drivers that they've got something better because they're just going to say, okay, if I have something better, it should be able to take just a little bit more. And I think that maybe they're using the brakes in each of these corners, maybe not the tunnel turn as much, but more brake in each of these corners than what they were accustomed to. As we see Kevin Harvick here now, you know, he started this race outside the top 12 of the points, but right now, even after that first lap spin, he's got himself in the 12th spot.
Kevin Harvick, as you said, came in outside the top 12, but looked pretty nonchalant about what was happening with 6 races to go in the chase. In fact, we asked him about the pressures of trying to get into the chase. Here's what he had to say.
The performance of the cars have been really good, and I feel really strong that the performance of the car will be good in the next 6 weeks. So we'll just go out and race like we can. I've learned not to let the stress of the chase and all the things that are around it. There's really nothing you can do about it other than go out and do the best you can.
And his crew chief, Todd Berrier, pretty much echoed those thoughts. He told me this morning, he said, we're outside the chase. We have to be aggressive. If we were inside the chase, we could play defensive, but we do not have that option. And so far, they've had to be extremely aggressive. They restarted 42nd after that early race spin, but they've rallied. They're close to being inside the top 20. Car's just a little bit free, but Kevin liking the field so far.
Mike, the good news for Kevin Harvick is right now he's all up at 21st spot, and he is 12th in the points. The bad news for that team is that the guy at the bottom there, Clint Boyer, his teammate, is not in the top 12 anymore because of Kevin moving in. Boyer moves out, and that's going to be tough if you try to get into the chase at the expense of one of your colleagues and one of your teammates. Carl Edwards closing in. A lot of people in the garage area pointed the finger, DJ, and said this 99 car could be one to watch. They know the 48 is good, the 24 is good, but Carl, coming off the momentum of that great run in Indianapolis, could be a factor here.
Yeah, this is actually a guy that I picked the other day on one of our deals, that Carl Edwards. I thought his team has shown a lot of momentum. I know that they ran well here the first race, and I just believe that he's poised and ready to win. They started on such a hot streak at the beginning of the year, we kind of forgot about them for a while just because they weren't back up front, and other people, Casey Kane and Kyle Busch, kind of took the spotlight. But I really believe that they have the car and the team to be a factor here today and get that car up front.
One of the reasons I would pick Carl Edwards to be good here is because this racetrack has always been so physical. It's a physical race.
They're going to give you the bottom here. That's what they say anyway.
Talking about the spotter, and that's a 7 car they were talking about. But it's such a physical race that he is in good shape physically that I think he can take advantage of that.
Jamie?
Well, you guys are talking about Carl. It has been a while since he's won a race this season. Last race he won was at Texas, but they've been consistent, and because of that, they sit 5th in position right now in the points. And Bob Osborne, his crew chief, told me this morning, this is the first race they're thinking outside of the box. As we talked about in pre-race, Carl is experimenting with a new setup that none of the Roush Fenway drivers are doing except for the 99 team. They have a little leeway and they're working, and today, guys, it seems to be paying off. He started 15th, he's all the way up to 6th, and I believe caution on the track.
Thanks, Jamie. Caution on the racetrack. Debris in turn 2, the tunnel turn, we're being shown and told, and it will be the 4th caution flag of the day.
It has been green since lap 25. This is probably a welcome break for a lot of these guys.
A lot of these drivers just took a deep breath saying, boy, I'm glad that happened. They were glad that there wasn't an incident and they weren't part of the caution. They were really looking for an opportunity to work on these cars. Mark Martin, on the other hand, who's been out front just spanking these guys right now, probably wish this thing would have gone green.
You love hearing Tony Gibson talk about how they got something to prove. They're tired of everybody bashing what's going on at DEI and what's being said about the team. Mark Martin said, I'm so proud of Tony Gibson and these guys and the engine program we've got, Earnhardt Childress engines, and said we're going to watch for the 8th to try to drive his way back to the front here.
Well, he's being aggressive right here off turn 1.
Well, three wide.
Man.
His car's working so good on the bottom. He got that good run, but we could see how the draft really plays into effect. The 11 was able to push the 83 by them right there.
Jimmy Johnson wisely backing out of it. You don't want to go 3 wide across the tunnel. Gilliland slips up a little bit there, loses a spot.
Got a little jam up now. 19 cars kind of got him bottled up.
3 wide in the short chute. Biffle in the 16. 7 of Robbie Gordon. 45 McCumbee. Now Robbie Gordon pulls up in front of the 45.
David Reagan down on the inside, making it 3 wide down the front stretch. Able to make that pass.
David Reagan just 7 points out of chase contention right now. He's been hustling in on that 12th position. Ryan Newman's door-to-door with the 11 car of Hamilton. Look at 48, Jimmy Johnson sail by.
He just blew by those guys on the inside.
Yeah, that's what's so cool. These cars make such a big hole in the air, and you go down that long straightaway, and all of a sudden, you've got a big hole of air there that they've made, and you can just pull out and go right by them.